Good morning, everyone. I feel fortunate and take the pride and pleasure to introduce today's introductory guest speaker, Dr. Shobha Rani, Principal, Professor, and Head Department of Pharmacy Practice and PharmD, Al Amin College of Pharmacy, Bengaluru, Karnataka. She is also Dean Faculty of Pharmacy, Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, Bengaluru. As former editorial member, she planned, structured, and contributed the Indian Journal of Pharmacy Practice in the initial stages. And despite leaving Indian Journal of Pharmacy Practice, she will sought after activities pertaining to this journal. We do feel the pinch of her leaving the editorial team, and the lacunae needs to be filled in. MAM has a very strong stint as the official publications for the Association of Pharmaceutical Teachers of India. She is active member of Women Forum APTI. She actively presently is in the editorial team of the official publication of Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences, and is associated with it as assistant editor. Her active roles for the identification, detection, and reporting of adverse drug reaction signals events have been rightly recognized, for which she is presently serving as a member Signal Review Panel Pharmacovigilance Program of India. She is active coordinator, Pharmacovigilance Program of India Center at St. Philomena's Hospital, Bengaluru. She has over 33 years of teaching and research experience in pharmaceutical domain with deep knowledge in various therapeutic areas. Dr. Shobha Rani has put in over 105 research publications till date in different high index journals and many more to follow. Our honorable resource person was instrumental in getting many research grants from prestigious organizations for her valuable research works. She is very much sought after resource person and had given guest lectures on varied topics at international and national conferences, institutions, and universities. Bestowed with several awards throughout her active career and continues to be. To name a few, APTI Women of the Year in 2017, Dr. Mumtaz Ahmad Khan Award for Distinguished Community Service in the year 2012, STARS Award for the Excellence in Academic Research in 2006. Dr. Shovar has won 10 Best Research Paper Awards. And to mention not, she is contributor of research publications of high repute and also a peer reviewer and has authored several books in the areas like biopharmaceutics and pharmacokinetics, clinical pharmacokinetics, pharmacovigilance, pharmacoeconomics. The most popular among them is Textbook of Biopharmaceutics and Pharmacokinetics. I welcome Dr. Shobha Rani and request to proceed with this session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction.
Welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
Is it visible? The presentation is visible?
Yeah, very much.
Okay. So good morning. First of all, a very good morning to Professor Abdul Aziz, then the resource person, Dr. Suja, and all the faculty members of Deccan School of Pharmacy, and all the participants. 1 second. This is going off. Sorry about this. Just my slides are moving. Can you just?
No, but madam, slides are very stable.
Yes, it's gone up.
Give me.
Keep it at 1.
I want.
Slide how to it, no? Is there? So at the outset, I would like to thank Professor Abdul Aziz for having made me a part of this national webinar. I have visited Deccan School of Pharmacy 2 times. I have visited even the pharmacy practice department, and they're doing extremely well. So, and I have also observed, throughout the pandemic period, like Professor Abdul Aziz has conducted several webinars. So I was very impressed. So, sir, I would like to congratulate you
Thank you, ma'am.
for your overall performance in the pharmacy practice department, as well as in conducting so many programs for the benefit of the students.
Thank you.
So really, it's a very nice thing. And I'm really glad that you invited me, and it's my privilege to be a part of this national webinar. And of course, my job today is to introduce you to the topic of medication errors, which will be taken in detail and explained by Dr. Suja. So I'll not be going into the details because Madam will be probably telling upskilling program. That's what I heard. But let us see what are medication errors and some introduction about it. So as Professor already said, it is any preventable error that can cause patient harm in that cycle, like right from the time it is prescribed to the patient up to the point when the patient consumed it. So it could be prescribing errors, it could be administration errors, it could be dispensing errors, or it could be monitoring errors. Broadly, it can be classified into these four. And coming to the type of prescribing errors, it could be like incomplete prescription, it could be due to illegible writing of the physicians, or incorrect drug name, frequency not mentioned, and even when drug being omitted, an incorrect route, incorrect dose, units not mentioned, and so on and so forth. There are different types of errors that can happen during prescribing. So this particular case report I went through in a journal. So this was about, a 19-year-old girl. She came to your emergency department with convulsion, gum hypertrophy, and ataxia. The patient had history of convulsion before 2 months. At that time, she was given tablet phenytoin, 100 milligrams, 2 times a day, prescribed for generalized tonic-clonic seizures. Then before 7 days, she presented with convulsion. So physician increased the dose of the drug. This is the thing, note. So the dose was increased from 2 times a day to 3 times a day. Then the patient developed gum hyperplasia and ataxia after 7 days, and she again presented with convulsions. So when the blood plasma levels were taken and measured, the serum phenytoin level was more than 40 micrograms per ml. Then the drug was withdrawn, and after withdrawing the drug, the patient eventually recovered. So what is the problem here? What was the prescribing error here is it was prescribed 3 times. See, phenytoin, unlike the other drugs, it is a drug which has got a narrow therapeutic index. A slight increase in the dose leads to increase in the levels, toxic levels. And a slight decrease in the dose makes it ineffective. A slight increase in the dose makes it unsafe or makes it toxic. So in this case, sudden increase in the dose by 100 milligrams led to the blood level, and then it reached a high therapeutic blood level. So medication error occurred at the prescription level, and because of this, the patient developed toxicity and she needed hospitalization. So instead of suddenly increasing the dose of phenytoin like this, one should, gradually increase or add another drug to prevent toxicity or a side effect. So this particular case report you can refer more about it in the International Journal of Basic and Clinical Pharmacology. So this is the reference. Okay. So by here what we understand is the physicians have to pay a lot of attention to the dose that they are prescribing. So especially for those drugs which are having narrow therapeutic index, one should be extremely careful. Then the other examples are a patient was discharged following ischemic heart stroke. Unfortunately, he was not prescribed clopidogrel on discharge. We know how important is clopidogrel. So this was not noticed by the prescribing doctor or the pharmacist or the nurse. So what needs to be done? So the healthcare team, they should review the medicines properly before the patient is discharged. So review medicine procedures to identify a list of critical medicines where timeliness and continuity of administration is very important. For example, anti-infectives in sepsis or adrenaline in anaphylaxis and so on. So another example is a patient admitted in a nursing home. He was prescribed Humalog, that is insulin 20 units in the morning and 8 units in the evening, according to the documentation from the nursing home. This looked unusual to the pharmacist, who checked with the nursing home and confirmed that the prescription should have been for Humalog Mix 25, that is 25% quick acting insulin and 75% intermediate acting insulin. The patient had been given the wrong prescription, resulting in hypoglycemia, which was, of course, reversed later with intravenous dextrose. So, generally, what action has to be taken is whenever any insulin product is prescribed, dispensed, or administered, healthcare professionals should cross verify to confirm the correct insulin products. Then coming to the administration errors, this is usually mostly it is by through the nurses, because nurses are the ones who administer the medicines to the inpatients. So discrepancy occurs between the drug received by the patient and drug therapy intended by the prescriber. That is, the doctor would have prescribed something and the nurse will administer something else, or she'll forget to administer what the doctor has told. So errors of omission, that is, the drug is not administered, then it could be incorrect administration technique and the administration of incorrect or expired preparation or deliberate violation of the guidelines. So some examples which are in our department, the students who reported, they said that the doctor asked the nurse to stop clindamycin, but she forgot the instructions she administered. Then nurse administered insulin, that is Insugen 20 units without measuring the GRBS, and the patient became hypoglycemic. The nurse was instructed to reduce Lasix 40 milligrams to 20 milligrams, but she administered 40 milligrams and the patient developed hypokalemia. So day-to-day basis, we get to see many medication errors. The other examples are like wrong administration technique. That is, the nurse did not shake the phenytoin suspension before administration. We all know it is very important to shake a suspension. Then the wrong route, administration of vitamin B12 IV instead of IM. Then coming to the omission, forgetting to administer atropine to a patient with cardiac arrest. So coming to the third type of error, that is the dispensing error. Again, this is done by the pharmacist. It could be the incorrect drug, it could be improper labeling, it could be wrong quantity, it could be inadequate instructions or improper storage and packaging. So now here, this commonly happens with medicines with similar packaging. So you can see these two, they're two different drugs, but having similar packaging. So when the pharmacist is having a lot of workload, is in a hurry, it is possible that he takes out the wrong packaging and then he dispenses. So even here you can see these two. They are two different, verapamil and naproxen. They are two different drugs, but so similar package. So this is one of the common causes of errors. And of course, prescription with illegible handwriting. See this prescription. Who can make out what is written on this prescription? So when such a prescription is presented to a pharmacy, the pharmacist assumes whatever he can read and then he dispenses. And then lack of attention is dispensing, like one example is dispensing chlorpromazine when prescription was for chlorpropamide. Sometimes, attention, like lack of attention, you either due to workload or due to negligence. And then dispensing expired medicines. So this was actually reported in Deccan Herald. You can go through it from this link. So it was, see this has expired. This is amoxicillin dry syrup. It has expired in 2018. So this is Karnataka government supply. whereas this was already, it has got expired, but it was dispensed in June 2019. Because it's a government supply. So they have been negligent. They have not bothered. So amoxicillin oral suspension was stopped and dispensed even after the expiry date. And this especially becomes dangerous for antibiotics because it will not be effective now, and the patient may develop resistance and many other problems will happen. Infection also will not subside. He will develop even resistance. And similar names, is one of the other reasons for dispensing error. For example, see combutol. This is ethambutol. Carbetol is carbamazepine. So when such similar sounding names, when suppose a doctor scribbles as combutol, the pharmacist can mistake it for carbetol and then dispense carbamazepine instead of this. Similarly, Dionyl and Dapsonil. Dionyl is glibenclamide and Dapsonil is imipramine. So like this, sound alike drugs. See, dilantin, phenytoin, dilcontin, diltiazem, epitril and inapril. So these are the reasons why dispensing errors happen. And even wrong labeling also could be one of the reasons. So here, a patient thought he was taking her pain medication, gabapentin, but she says her bottle contained gemfiprozil, a cholesterol medicine, which looked very similar to gabapentin. The bottle had a correct manufacturer label, but she says the pharmacist put the wrong label on it. So she got so sick taking that, eventually she could not move. She needed help doing day-to-day chores. The pills looked so similar, but she did not suspect anything was wrong. Finally, one morning, she looked at the bottle closely and discovered the mistake. She immediately stopped taking the medication. However, by that time, she had taken the wrong drug for 12 days, 3 times a day. So you can see this gabapentin. The label put was for gabapentin, and the drug inside was something else. So what happened? The patient became sick, and she could not, because she took it for many days. For 12 days, she took the wrong drug. So it can definitely have adverse reaction. Then monitoring errors are the last ones. That of course there are many types of errors, but broadly classifying. Monitoring errors means inadequate drug therapy review. For example, ordering serum drug levels but not reviewing them. See, suppose the patient is on phenytoin or phenobarbital, which are very narrow therapeutic drug index, or even theophylline, ordering for the serum drug level to find out what dose has to be given, but not reviewing them. So it's a monitoring error. Or not even ordering also is a monitoring error. Then not responding to level outside of therapeutic range. So supposing you get, like in previous example, I told you it was more than 40 micrograms. So it is outside the therapeutic range, but not doing anything about it. And not ordering the drug levels as and when required. And prescribing antihypertensive agents and then failing to check blood pressure. Prescribing anti-diabetic medicines and then not monitoring the sugar levels. So another example is in our hospitals, like generally what happens is when a patient is on warfarin therapy and adequate tests are not carried out in a patient, leading to a life-threatening hemorrhage, then we say that monitoring errors has occurred. So this is just to give an example. What are monitoring errors? And what are the consequences like? The consequences of this medication errors could be, of course, adverse drug reactions. And then it can, even if it is a severe reaction, it can even lead to death. I came across one case where the patient was, he took a wrong medicine and it led to Stevens-Johnson syndrome. It can be fatal. So it can lead to areas which can be fatal. Then increased length of hospital stay and increased cost for the patient. So these are all consequences when medication errors can be we can prevent them. So what can we do as pharmacists, as PharmD program? Now I think many people who are attending this particular webinar are PharmD students. So what can you all do? So now, first of all, you have to understand that medication errors have to be viewed very seriously and not casually as they affect patient safety. Now, measures have to be taken to prevent medication errors. Then system for reporting medication errors should be in place in all hospitals. And educational programs should be conducted to encourage the healthcare professionals to report the errors before the ADRs can occur. So what the students can do is, anyway you are going for ward rounds, every day you are going on rounds. So have a look. You'll be doing the medication review, you're anyway doing. You're taking the case sheets and doing the medication review. While doing that, identify those potential medication errors which have not yet led to ADRs. So when you identify the potential medication errors, bring it to the notice of the concerned physicians, concerned clinicians, and then explain to them. Then they can take at the beginning itself, either change the drug or take the necessary whatever action has to be taken, and then we can see at least the patient harm can be prevented, because patient safety is what we're looking at in a PharmD program or in a hospital. As a healthcare professional, even we people, we are contributing to the patient safety. So patient safety is what is our focus. So it is our bound duty to see that these medication errors, if at all you can, potential ones you need to identify, bring it to the notice. So we have been doing in our hospital regularly this, because there was no system for reporting medication errors prior to our presence in the hospital. So we, as a pharmacy practice department, when you start, identifying the medication errors and listing it and publishing papers, or we made a list and then presented it to the medical superintendent. Then we took his permission to conduct the educational programs, because when you have the data of the medication errors, we can present it to the clinicians in their clinical meets, and then we can impress upon them how serious it can be to patient safety. Then they will also get sensitized. So educational programs can be conducted by pharmacy practice departments, by PharmD teachers and students, and then make the healthcare, that is doctors and nurses, aware about where all the errors can occur, and we can contribute in the prevention of the medication errors. This is what I would like to tell as a PharmD students, or as PharmD faculty, what we can do. And so, with this, I would like to thank all the audience for patient hearing. And even I'm looking forward to listen to Dr. Suja. And then in between, I might go for another meeting, but I'll come back. Thank you once again, sir, for the opportunity given.